At the beginning of 2023, I had no idea I would launch the Faith Community Initiative, and I had no idea I would be in a serious bicycle accident and get hit head-on. What happened in your life in 2023 that by the end of the year you could say, I had no idea that thing was going to happen, or I sure didn't anticipate something like that happening? As the end of the year was drawing to a close, I had multiple conversations with people who claimed that they too had no idea they would walk some of the roads they walked in that year. One friend had no idea on January 1st of 2023 that she and her spouse would file for divorce by December of 2023. Another friend had no idea on January 1st of 2023 that he would be told he might lose hearing in both of his ears. Another friend had no idea he would lose his job just before Christmas. Another friend had no idea she would be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. A family member had no idea cryptocurrency would go bust and he would lose a significant amount of money. Another friend had no idea her dad would die suddenly. One friend had no idea they would be chosen for an amazing opportunity. Another friend had no idea they were going to be given a huge promotion and a significant pay raise. At the turn of every year, we often think about what we hope will happen in a year, and we consider the things that we know are going to be in front of us. There are many roads that we will walk that are familiar and that we can describe in detail because they're either planned or we're continuing the walk from the year before. What happens when we either choose a different road or are forced to walk a different road than what we had planned? The Magi in our story today chose a different road because they were warned in a dream to do so. This particular story is a captivating one. Of all the stories in the Bible, this one sticks with us and we have images for it in our minds. Have you ever thought about why? Is it because the three are exotic characters? Magi or kings or wise men or astrologers or star interpreters? Is it because the three offered amazing gifts to the child that we hadn't heard of? Frankincense, gold we've heard of, myrrh. Everybody has to look up what myrrh is. Is it because of the journey they simply made due to having seen a star rise? Is it because they knew something that Herod the king did not know? Is it because of the fabulous outfits we see them in when we see pictures of them? What we know about them is actually very little. We know they traveled from another country in the east. We know they saw a star that they believed was a sign of the birth of the one to be called King of the Jews. We know Herod had a secret conversation with them. We know the gifts they took because it's written in the text. We know they were overwhelmed with joy when the star finally stopped, and then they got to see the child. We know they were warned of God, which is how one translation puts it, in a dream not to go back to Herod, despite Herod's instruction to them that they do so. This is where they decided to change the road. They had traveled from the east to Jerusalem, and then from Jerusalem they went south to Bethlehem, about 6 miles. Instead of going back to Jerusalem, which is what Herod had told them to do, and then heading home, they had to find another road. For us, that would be easy. We have many roads to choose from. For them, it was not easy in reality. Roads were not plentiful like they are today, and safe roads were very scarce. The main roads in that time were main roads, and more people traveled them, which made them safer. Rather than going the way they knew was safe, they were warned in a dream to go home by another way. Have you ever wondered what you would have done if you had been warned in a dream? Most of us aren't used to having dreams influence our daily choices, though there are people who take dreams very seriously. One of the definitions of the Greek word for dream is oracle, which has a divine connection. So the meaning is not so much they were asleep and they had a dream in which they saw a different road, as the meaning is actually that God gave them an oracle, which to our ears sounds like way more than a dream. We don't know if they consulted God, if they consulted the oracle, looking for some guidance, or if God simply gave it to them. In choosing to go home a different way, they had to choose between their own possible safety and the safety of the child they had just seen. They chose to take a less traveled and safe road in order to heed what God had said to them. I'm reminded of how so many of our new arrivals here in Chicago are having to choose to take roads that are incredibly dangerous to get here. They know of the dangers because they talk to other people, and they choose the roads because to stay on the road they are on in their home place is either even more dangerous or a road that leads to starvation and deprivation for their families. I'm reminded of how many Palestinians are setting out on roads that lead out of Palestine, either because their homes have been bombed or because they soon will be. While they're choosing to leave, it's not really a choice, is it? Just because we choose a road doesn't mean it feels like a choice. When a doctor tells you to decide between losing a kidney or possibly dying of cancer, that doesn't feel much like a choice. I do wonder, though, if there is a difference between making a choice versus being forced onto a road that is not of our choosing. Most of you got the news that Hosmic was forced onto a road of grief that was not of her choosing when her son Ross suddenly died on Friday. Pat was forced onto a road of grief when her husband Cliff died suddenly last year. Jerry was forced onto a road of seemingly perpetual pain and discomfort when he became ill a year and a couple of months ago. Bernard was forced onto a road of long recovery when he had complications after surgery in October. I could go through our membership one by one and name the roads we have all been thrust on to that we did not anticipate being on. What is our response when that happens? How does our walking the road change when we are forced onto it versus when we choose to be on it? Perhaps the more important question is, What are the tools we need once we're on roads that are not of our choosing? The first question about our response is a bit easier to answer. When we are thrust on roads not of our choosing, we often spend time in the beginning feeling angry, afraid, sad, and questioning why this particular thing is happening to us. What did we do, or what is wrong with God that this thing should happen? The key here is that we not stay in that place perpetually, because walking the road is very difficult if we are constantly looking back and claiming we shouldn't be on the road in the first place, or shaking our fist as we go. As far as the tools we need, I can think of 3, and I'm sure you all can think of many more. No matter the road, no matter how we end up on it, one of the most important tools we need is people who will support us and walk with us. Family, friends, church community, neighbors, professionals. Not one of us is equipped to walk the roads of our lives alone. We were not created that way, and we did not evolve in that way. We were built for community, for tribal living with people around us. Ask any of the people I mentioned earlier, Hosmic, Pat, Jerry, Bernard. They will tell you that these roads they were thrust on have only been livable because of the love and support of community. I've experienced that many times in my life, and I know you have too. While this one seems obvious, I continue to be surprised by how many of you do not reach out to and for community when you are suffering and on a road you don't want to be on. It's your choice, of course. But when there is solid research to show that you will be better able to walk your road if you have support on that road, I continue to be surprised when you don't ask for help, or when you keep your suffering quiet, or when you even refuse offers of help and support. You have no idea how the road changes when someone brings you a home-cooked meal, or when someone visits you, or when someone sends you a card saying they are thinking of you and praying for you, or when someone sits with you and holds your hands and prays for you through your tears. Another important tool we need is to find the balance between realistic thinking and hope that the road will change, or that we can get off of it, or that it will lead us to where we want to go. This past week, I was part of a 3-day clergy organizing training that Live Free Illinois held. The leader, Alex, asked a question throughout our training when we were thinking about issues. The question was, now wait a minute, is this the world we are living in, or is this the world we want to live in? His question was designed to get us to think realistically about where things currently are. He said, we give up a ton of power when we think we are living in the world we want to live in, while the reality says something different. The same dynamic happens when we are walking roads we don't want to be walking. If I am very ill, but I tell myself that I'm getting better despite the worsening of my symptoms, I am much less likely to seek the help I need to get better. If I am heartbroken, but tell myself I'm ready to move on and then put on a good face, I am far more likely to refuse support from my community and thus much more likely to have serious mental health issues ahead. The goal here is not to sink so deeply into the reality of our situation that we believe things will never change. Instead, it's more like walking a balance beam. You know, those balance beams where you try hard not to fall off? On one side of this balance beam is, here I am, this is my reality. And the other side is, here's where I want to be with support and hard work. A third important tool we need as we walk roads that we are thrust upon is learning how to not be paralyzed by fear. Most of the roads we find ourselves on suddenly without much warning are roads where fear is real and understandable. One of the things we have in common with the Magi, our mystical characters from today, is fear. They had much to fear. What if Herod had found out they weren't coming back to Jerusalem? What if they were killed on the lesser-known road they were forced to take? After my bike accident in July, I felt visceral fear every time I was back on the lakefront path on my bike. It took weeks and weeks for that to change, and a lot of internal talking to myself. But in addition to that fear, which is a fear I anticipated, I figured I would be afraid when I got back on my bike, I also felt a fear I had not anticipated. A week after my accident, I was driving on a 2-lane road, and as a car approached from the other direction, I felt terrified the closer it got. Because of the trauma I experienced of being hit head-on, my body prepared itself for being hit head-on as I was driving. That surprised me, and I had to do a lot of work to override my body's automatic response system. We're always going to feel fear, and especially when we are on roads we don't want to be on. The good news is that we can learn how to not let fear control our minds and bodies and actions. We're not going to learn that today. I haven't been given enough time. But we are going to focus on that during our Lenten season this year, because 2024 promises to be a year that will increase our fear. Most presidential election years do that, and this one will for sure. The Magi went from feeling great joy after seeing the baby Jesus in Bethlehem to walking a road they did not know. We do the same in our personal and spiritual lives, and we also do it as a 21st century church. In our personal lives, we're invited to do some discernment around the roads we've been walking for so long that no longer serve us. In our congregational life, we're invited to a similar kind of question. What are the roads we want to be on? What are the roads that will lead to freedom and life for all? How can we walk and help construct those roads? For so many of us, me included, the issue is about how many roads we are trying to walk simultaneously. What are the roads we need to choose to leave in order to be more present on other roads. The Magi, we are told, were wise, and they had each other to help with their discernment. Fortunately for us, we also have each other as we walk the roads ahead in 2024. Those of you who are new to roads that have been thrust upon you, please know that we are with you and ready to support you. Amen.